calling back.
We are live.
Thanks so much, Dave. Quick shift change and tape change. Okay, so where we left, we were asking one another, should we keep the $15,000 for Henderson Field match funds in 2026 or take that out? Let's make a decision. Is there someone who's willing to motion for the benefit of getting this done?
I'll make a motion. Oh, go ahead.
I motion that we take it out.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second that motion. Any discussion?
My thought is that yes, it may be conservative, but it's also wise. I know we've also applied for other grants, and we are going to.
Right, if it doesn't go here, maybe it goes somewhere else.
Should we be so fortunate to get them, we will need matching money.
Certainly, understood. Okay, so the motion is to take out the $15K and lower the grant reserve, grant match funds from $837 and change to $822 and change, I think, if I can subtract, still at this late hour. So, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Jared, that was you two? Opposed?
No.
Nay. Okay, so that's a 3-3. So the in favors were Therian, Boonin, Nakajo, and the opposed were Seymour, Garland, and McLeod. So Marty, do you mind weighing in on this for us, please?
Weigh in, yes. I'm going to go with the opposition on this one.
Okay.
Opposed.
Opposed, meaning you want to keep the 15K.
Correct.
Very good. Okay. So Marty, thanks so much for being our tiebreaker. So we're going to keep that 15, no edit to the budget. So that was very good. Thanks for that, Marty. Keep the 15K. Okay, very good. Anything else expense side before we get into
The
funding
big
EST
expense side.
and
Yeah,
property?
it's the emergency.
Yep.
reserve.
Okay, so last week, to think about this as an expense and to think about this as a revenue source, last week we really did some workshopping to boil down the decision point. Not that this is handcuffs, but just a simplified decision making for this evening. We started with an assumption that we would want a reserve amount for emergency services of $250,000. We also talked about the pros and cons of funding a reserve of $71,000, or equivalent to 100% of Swarthmore Borough's portion of the anticipated new multi-municipal program. So first of all, have I stated that accurately enough?
It's our
The
net
folks can follow
contribution. It's not our total, it's the net contribution.
Understood.
I may have missed what you said, because I know we're all trying to be.
Sure.
So, I'm sure you described the last one was just for the ALS, but the other is a certain number for emergency services reserve, not limited to ALS, right?
Correct. Either one. Well, and honestly, the decision point of property tax versus EST gives contrasting flexibility.
Yes.
So I'm open if people want to think about those two containers first. For me individually, I care more about the dollar amount than the container. Okay, there's a couple nods over here. Are we okay with?
Yeah, let's
just-
focus
just-
on that revenue or that expense number.
Right, so just for the start of conversation, 250K, 71K, something else that is an informed figure other than those two figures. Anyone have anything new that they want to introduce?
Just, David's right, we have to do it by the millage, and we don't know what number that'll translate to.
But we can get back to it, right.
So on concept, Cindy,
Yeah.
for you or for others, do you think that 71K in reserve does the job in a satisfactory way next year, or it's more prudent to budget something else?
I would make it a little bit higher because I'm thinking of the fire as well.
Yeah, we're gonna be merging firehouses, and I think we have a lot of unexpected expenses around emergency services next year with the authority as well. So it would be prudent to go the full half millage
Okay.
for the emergency services tax.
And Cindy, are you somewhere in between?
I'm
Just
somewhere
your
in
thoughts?
between. I wouldn't necessarily go the full half millage.
Understood, but a little bit more is where you're
But I
saying.
think when Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, did you do this math too? When I did it on the average assessed value, it was about $18 per household.
Per month,
For
I
half a
think we
millage?
got, at half a million, I think we were somewhere around
Okay, 18 to 20.
$22 a
Okay.
month.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Jana, what's?
I hate to put Mayor Marty on the spot, but considering you have quite a bit of experience, you sat in a lot of these ALS meetings, you know, if you were to. And fire, thank you. And fire, yes, everything under your purview. Like, could you give your thoughts again?
There are so many, the fire department's all in, and now with the ambulance service as well being in such flux. There have always been so many unknowns and unexpected expenses that come up. We know, I just think you need to be as conservative as possible in dealing with reserves.
Does that mean
There-
250?
Um,
Does that mean 250?
What are we talking about now?
You're talking about the 250 reserve, or are you talking about the mill? Which?
Let's stick in real people money.
I'm sticking with
Before we-
the money. And
Yeah,
then really-
before we
yeah.
convert into millage, which boy, does that get
Yeah.
a little confusing for folks to follow. So, Marty, is your advice to council fund at 250 or at another figure close to that? That's informed by your attendance at these meetings?
You know, I don't know that I have a strong opinion one way or another,
Sure.
honestly, in terms of what the figure ought to be.
Okay.
I just know we just need to anticipate reserves are gonna be, the likelihood is reserves are gonna be necessary. I
Understood.
would not go light on reserves at this point.
All right, so, let's take 71 off the table, because it sounds like, is there someone who's willing to, I mean, actually, Sean or David, who's spent a lot of time in millage rates, if it's helpful, I just did my own conversion of millage rates to cash, because I didn't know that. So I'm not saying that I mean, 0.1 mils as $71,000, right? We can scale 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does that sound about right to you?
It's a little bit less, I think it's about 68,000.
I got 64,390.
And the difference between our numbers, I'm almost certain, is that you have not included the 110 Park in the assessed value.
I have no.
So,
Okay.
I'm just saying that that's probably the difference between the 64 versus 68 per mil.
Great, so now we're starting to tie things together. We're trying to fund the capital reserve and any general operating deficit, or deduct that from the monies that we raise. Is everybody on board with me so far? Right, Sean, can you scroll on our expense total?
Is that updated?
No,
Real time?
okay,
It
so
is
this
not
has come.
updated since we've taken $20,500 off of that from groups.
Okay, so let's just call for a working number, we have 15,000 in reserve, and we are workshopping the answer on how much additional monies do we want to raise for the emergency services reserve, assuming $65,000, although it may be a little more than that, right? 0.1 mils is 65, 0.2 at 130, 0.3 at 195. This is the amount of money we raise at any of those tax rates. Are we comfortable with those working ballpark numbers?
But I
Could you run
thought
through those one more time?
0.5 was 321,000, wasn't it?
321,950.
Yeah, and that,
So
Yeah, based off of the most recent assessment information I had for Swarthmore.
Well, I know that right now, the conversation I had last month with DCED, with the state, they were saying that, I think I've said this before, there's a bill in the Senate that will allow for the millage to be increased from 0.5 for an emergency services tax to 5 mils. So the state of emergency services in the Commonwealth has become pretty dire when you're looking at ambulance services and at fire. So if we're going to argue over, 0.3 or 0.4, just know that it's being recognized at the state as a pretty
Yeah,
dire
that's your
situation.
context.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
And Cindy, back to your just point of fact, do you mind restating that? You were
So,
saying,
this budget proposes putting 250 toward emergency services reserve, but the 0.5 mil raised 321, I thought the
Correct.
calculation was. Well,
Yes.
the numbers I was
okay,
hearing.
so I'm not
being thrown out-
exactly right. I'm off
Yeah.
by,
Yeah,
I'm off by $4,000 once we get up to 5 mils. And so, Sean,
here's
do you mind
what was
opening a
point-
new
what was
tab
point
and just,
three?
and just giving us that 65
195.
and running a little table for us that we can all be looking at,
We can do that.
1 through 5, okay. So while Sean is giving us just a little table to look at to help us, oh man,
So much for technology.
Yeah, meeting's over.
what a cliffhanger. Okay, so Sean's gonna give us a shared table to have working numbers for how much would come in at any of these millage rates. But the question, the critical thinking question still remains, how much money do we want in the pot, right? And so I hear a few folks saying 250 or close to it. It seems like the will of the group is,
Where did times?
Where did the 200, can you refresh my memory? I know there've been a lot of emails, but the 250K, where, was that a percentage?
that was
like, what does that represent?
that was a number discussed with the college.
Yeah, 250 was a figure that was set aside when we were having conversations with Swarthmore College about their capital contribution. The argument being that if somehow the ALS numbers were low, that the college wouldn't draw back a lot of money and effectively spend the borough's money first if the forecasts were high for some reason.
So Sean, would you be comfortable with me then drawing the conclusion as a member who's outside those discussions? 250 was a ballpark starting point. It wasn't derived from a projection of anticipated expenses.
Well, not exactly. I mean, looking over our report from the fire consultant, I mean, we know we have a lot of emergency services related capital expenses coming up very soon. I think both the ladder truck and the main engine in our department are at or nearing the end of their lifespans. Looking at the cost to replace them, I mean, we're easily somewhere over $3 million.
Sure.
So, and our capital reserves for that are effectively non-existent.
And so could we, so that's sobering, but that's without hearing what equipment comes along with any merger agreements, right? And
Yeah, Garden
right,
City,
we have that long inventory of other people's equipment that is also near end of life, right? Just to all share in the happiness here. But would we have the option to bond for a piece of equipment at that expense if we needed to?
you could issue a bond, you could take out a loan for it. There are other options, but they all come with debt service.
Okay,
There are
so,
also sometimes grants for fire equipment as well. So a combination, I would anticipate that when and if we got to the point of getting new fire equipment delivered in 4 or 5 years, because that's the lead time on this equipment. You don't just go to your neighborhood dealer and get something rolled in.
Yeah,
That we would have some sort of a mixture of grant and bonds at a low rate, because there are programs out there to finance fire equipment at low rates, and that's how this would get paid for. So the discussion about, oh, we need trucks, I don't disagree with. It's just that it wouldn't come out of this bucket.
okay, and it doesn't, and that could hang with Marty's perception that there are a lot of unknown costs,
Yeah, I think
and
that
the context Kristen is giving us across the state.
The
Sure.
more likely scenario, because as David said, I mean, the lead time on ordering this equipment is so far out now, because there are so few manufacturers manufacturing fire equipment. In the short term, we're gonna be dealing with probably increased repairs.
Okay.
And those repairs in and of themselves are inordinately expensive.
And we've included that in the budget for the fire department, was increased repairs.
And the question is, since it's an unknown number, what might that number look
Right.
like?
Right.
Could we follow that exercise? I think Scarlett, I just kind of need to see it almost like a sensitivity analysis. So like if the millage increased, if we increase millage to 0.3, how much does that raise? Like I heard 0.5 is 321K, 0.3 is, and
So
then-
my math, and sorry, I don't have the
yeah, that's fine.
denominator here for the borough-wide assessment. So when I divide 321,950 by 5, each 0.1 mil values at 64,390.
Okay, so 64 and then
390
100,
times.
okay.
Right, and as I said, that 322 omitted the 30 million plus in new assessments from across the street, so, you know.
So Jana, it might be a little better than that.
Okay,
Right.
but just to kind of thread that needle, so at 0.3, that's about 192 plus, or I get that maybe that's conservative, but can you equate that again to what the cost is to a household per month?
So a home assessed at $500,000 would pay a little over $20 a month for
At the
that
0.3?
full half mil. No,
Right,
at the
full.
0.5 mil.
So it could be more like around 12.
At 0.3?
Yeah.
Sure.
Mhm.
And also to put it in perspective, as we've discussed in the past, a EST of 0.5 mils raises about the same amount as a property tax of 12.5% increase.
So, let me finish this and then so in my mind then, kind of going down the middle and considering what Marty said about like staying conservative, I mean, why not go 0.3, it's around 200,000, it's about $12 per month per household for a $500,000 house. I mean, considering all of the uncertainty, even without like Crozier closing and ALS, even before that all happened, there was a lot of uncertainty here.
And a lot of cost overrun.
Right, and so $12 a month to me isn't, I again, considering
Emergency.
yeah, emergency services, some of the challenges we're facing.
So Jana, would you be willing to motion a EST at 0.3 mil rate and see if there's a second out there for that?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? I second that.
My mind just isn't as fast on the math, so that's why.
Do you want, could you restate
But
what that?
my question is, okay, in that budget that we're contemplating, we already are counting on an EST of at least 71,000, right? Because, listen, if it's 320, if it theoretically raises 321, and we're putting 250 in reserve, we're spending that other 71, either in police, fire, or ALS. We're spending that 71.
I hear you.
So it means
So
the
you're saying if we
reserve,
don't fund that,
so it means the reserve
No.
is, that's where I'm stuck. Because I don't know the .3 number. What's the .3 millage?
Point three,
That brings in how much?
192 plus or
Okay.
minus.
Okay, even if you say it's 200, take 71 away from it, that's how much would go to reserves,
mhm. Correct.
right? Right.
Yes, so.
If we have 71 in real expenses.
Yeah,
Yes.
so with a .3 mil EST, the reserve, the contribution to reserve would be cut slightly below half to about 122,000 into reserve.
And if we did point, then let me take my motion back, because if we did .4, that's 250, and you're saying minus about 70K, so it's about 180K delta.
Correct.
Then
Correct, yeah.
and .4 millage on a household at 500K is more like $17 a month.
I'm comfortable with that.
I would
Sure.
make that motion.
Okay.
Your
So,
.4.
so the motion
I'd
is
second that.
.4. Okay,
Where
so
does
we'll
that, where does that
say
put you, Sean, with that
Janet to
motion?
Cindy.
One sec.
Where does the, if it's .4 instead of .5? Oh, so you said 1 second, I'm sorry.
So that's total revenue at .4 mils of 257,560 minus 71,000 operating. That would leave roughly $185,000 to transfer into capital reserves for emergency services.
Okay.
Not just capital, just reserves for
Reserves.
emergency
Yeah,
services.
So I say that thinking that capital purchases would be the destination for that money.
But I actually really, it's important to me that the future group has max flexibility
Right.
to this point of uncertainty, so I wouldn't want it identified as a capital.
Just any
a
emergency
capital
service.
fund.
Yes, it
Sure.
could, yeah,
Okay, but a
yes,
reserve
at that
fund.
point, it could go towards personnel costs, benefits,
That's right.
anything
Okay.
like that.
Right.
Yeah,
I really want to support .4, but I'm just, and I'm not gonna be on council next year, but I worry about the costs. I
so if
really
we
worry.
had, so let's play that out.
Yeah.
Right, if we knew that our net contribution was a 71K and we spent the 185 in Q1 and Q2, what would next year's council do if we were short? And, right, we talked about this a little bit last week, right, we don't hope that would happen during Q1, but maybe that would be during Q3, Q4, but whenever it would, what kinds of tools would next year's council have? Right?
Well, they'd have, based upon budgetary assumptions, if things went to pass, we would have all sorts of surpluses generated by additional taxes, additional fees, et cetera, that are not reflected in the budget. And we are going into the year with, whatever, $1 million, $1.2 million, I don't know, I haven't seen a final number on cash in the bank. So
So our first
That's
move-
not Charlotte's question.
No, it is. So our first move would be looking for undercounts in our revenues and trying to get ahead on actual dollars in on tax revenue based on conservative assumptions at a 110 park and transfer fees for home sales, Swarthmore home sales into 110 park. So that would be our first move. And then would we have a second move?
building permit fees would also be in that.
True. One time, so more one-time money. Sean, how does that square for you?
Those are one-time wonders, and if
But
these
if
are
we're
ongoing
talking about
expenses-
Q3 and Q4 of next year, before we're in our next orderly opportunity to look for a tax raise or look for a cost decrease or otherwise assess in a really significant way.
Turn it to the authority.
Right? I think depending on the time of year, maybe timing makes all the difference. But Sean, what other tools, fast forward 8 months from now, how would you advise future council?
Well, I mean, I left my crystal ball at home today. I mean, I would just say, keep in mind that all of these assumptions assume that the economy does not move and that nothing big breaks here in the next few months. I mean, where do we get money from? If it's a lean month, if we're in a pinch, we gotta borrow it, and we gotta do that at whatever the cost is. So, I mean, the financial reserves that we have here, I mean, a lot of them are fund restricted, and what is not, won't get you super far if what you have to buy is a big ticket item. So, I mean, financially, I like to have, money on hand so that we're not in a situation where we would have to borrow. And that sort of plays into my mindset here. I'd also say that, I know your question assumed Q3, Q4, but Q1 is a very lean time for the borough.
Sure.
Those cash reserves carry us to be able to make payroll and, bills in January and February before tax revenue starts coming in. So I get a little bit nervous when we start talking about what-if scenarios, pulling from reserves or using one-time revenues to shore things up.
Understood. Could you ballpark what our percent, our overall percent reserve is out of this budget?
About 15%.
Okay, and best practices 10 to 15%?
Yeah.
Puts you at the floor?
15% based on last year's general fund, or fund amount. So, I mean, this upcoming year, we have higher expenses and higher revenues, so it's not to say that those funds will keep up with that.
Understood. Okay, so, 0.4 mils is on the table, and forgive me for spinning yarn all the way, far away from that decision point. Let's bring it back in, and anything else for the benefit of the group before we call the question on that point?
Yes.
Shoot.
I think that, 0.4 mils is still equivalent to a 10% tax increase.
Dedicated toward emergency services.
Dedicated to emergency services, where we have a great deal of flexibility because, we can pay anything that's emergency services related, whether it's on budget or off budget, budgeted or dreamed of. It gives us we can do whatever. So there is a good deal of flexibility that a budget manager would have with those funds. But we keep asking, if the sky falls, what will we do? Well, I think it's more responsible to say we have a responsible budget, responsible reserves going into the year, and if the sky falls, then maybe we need to borrow. But we haven't told our public, they have to pay us in advance just in case the sky falls. I think it's excessive. I think 4% is excessive. I think the 186,000 is excessive. I think we have lots of other places where there is conservative assumptions made, because some may call it fat. In this budget, not comfortable with the whole shooting match as it stands.
Okay, thanks for that, David. Anyone else on, last call?
I just feel like we've got so much fiscal instability right now in the world that we're living in, with the risk of tariffs, and I don't feel like now is really the time that we need to think that this sky is not going to fall.
Okay. And we can hold the dynamic tension of the contracts between the two views, right? So, anyone else for a last call? Sure, Cindy?
If we don't do an EST, then the millage rate is the same as last year, right? And even though we may get more revenue, it's from growth in the community. But it means that individual residents in Swarthmore aren't paying anything more for the increased emergency services costs that we know across, in all three categories are pretty huge. And so it's sort of like we're not holding our part of the bargain with all of our community members. We're relying on one.
Well, we would have to raise property taxes if that were the case. If you thought you needed $186,000 in reserve,
What's the difference, David?
I'm saying there isn't one.
Sure. So Cindy, we had this motion before us on the point 4.
Yep.
If that motion failed, right, we need to come back into it, to your point, to say, well, I think we all agree that we need something, but maybe the something that's not the right figure. Okay. Anyone else?
I prefer to keep it a slimmer budget.
Okay.
And I'd also like to reinforce the point that if we were to purchase a new apparatus, as others said, that would probably be purchased through a loan or a bond, and the waiting list for that truck would be many years. So the better solution for that would be examining that through our future consolidation, hopefully. And I know that was a big conversation point earlier in the discussion. And I just don't think it would shake out like that.
Okay.
I understand we need to have reserves. I signed the checks for the fire truck repairs, and it's nowhere near $250,000. There's the oddball $7,000 or $8,000 every here or there is my assessment. So I'd rather keep it a little bit more conservative, keep it a little slimmer.
Okay, so let's call the questions. All in favor of adopting a 0.4 mill rate EST into this budget, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so all opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so motion fails, so that was McLeod and Garland in favor, the rest declining. Jana, thank you for sticking your neck out and getting us on the board, getting us in an action-oriented posture. What do we want to do instead?
I would like to propose a motion to pass an emergency services tax at the full millage allowed under the Commonwealth. Half a millage, yeah.
Okay, is there a second at 0.5?
I'll second it.
Okay, thanks, Jana. So Kristen and Jana have us on the board to consider 0.5. I imagine a lot of what we talked about earlier still holds, and we don't need to rehash all of it. But if anyone has a bright idea, flash of brilliance. All right.
Do you need to talk through some things?
Okay. All in favor of adopting at 0.5, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All opposed? Nay. Okay. Kristen, thanks for keeping us moving along. So 0.4 fails, 0.5 fails. 0.5 was Kristen, Jana. Okay. And who's got the next idea?
I'll go at 2.5.
2.5. Okay. Thanks, David. Is there, so let's, Jana,
Well, I didn't count like that.
right? Jana's going to get us into what 2.5 really represents.
2.5 represents, well, it's 160, but minus the 70%, so that's 90K.
Understood? So so really it's 0.025 mill rate, right, Sean?
0.025.
Yeah, okay, which represents $160,000 of tax revenue to the borough. 71% we anticipate is committed to our net contribution, so that leaves us.
71,000.
Thank you, whatever I said, you all are right. Jan, do you mind restating? So that leaves us with the reserve of,
No, you said 171.
No, the reserve contribution would be about just under $90,000.
Yeah, 90, I'm just
Okay.
rounding.
Right.
Oh,
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's slightly understated because we don't have 110 parking, but
Very good, at least that much, yes. David, did I second your motion? Or did someone second your motion? No, I said, what does that,
Right.
what does that equal in real money? Okay, great. So, David has motioned, 2.5 mils or $160,000, which would give us a reserve of $98,000 beyond our 71K anticipated net outlay. So, is there a second? I would second that. So, additional discussion, or would anyone like to hear that restated? A restatement. Okay. All in favor of the 2.5 mils, say aye. Aye. Okay, so that gets us to 3. And opposed?
No.
Okay. And Marty, could you cast a tiebreaker for us?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's too late.
Understood. Okay. So we've done 4. We've done 5. We've done 2.5. And shall we try 3 on for size? 3 or 3.5?
Can I make another motion for 5?
So, Carl, you got an advice about this? Asked and answered or discretionary?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I've never seen that before. Ultimately, the motion was made and failed, but ultimately you do have to come to a decision at some point.
Sure.
Change your mind.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Ultimately, the motion's been made and failed, but you do have to come to a decision. So if
We sure do.
people change their minds.
That's true. That's true. Kristen, would you be open to a friendly amendment at 4.5? We could ask Jana to do the math of what that actually gets you.
I just think, we had Crozier closed this year. We scrambled and created an agreement with surrounding municipalities to stand up ALS. It's all been very expensive. And we're in the process of creating an authority, and we're merging fire. And we're wanting to cut the budget for public safety, yet fund all of these other services. If anything, I'd want to take some of this back. I don't know why we're fighting over 0.5% of what actually protects you in your house, not an event in town center.
Fair. I mean, I think for me, I can speak to that. For myself individually, I see lots of other resources that I think if they were needed, that we could pull from. So having a pot that's hardwired to this function, but also taking heart that there is other money in our budget writ large that I do trust that we would sort it out if called to. Okay. So so we've done 2.5. We've done 4. We've done 5. Kristen is motioning for 5 again. Is there a second at 5? Going once, going twice. So
Can I make a motion for 4.5? Sorry.
So you would, okay, so the motion at 5 fails for lack of a second. And okay, hang on. And so Jana's motion, seconded by Cindy for 4.5. Jana's motion, seconded by Cindy at 4.5, is now on the table. Any discussion or Jana to Cindy?
If I may be so bold as to assume a question, 4.5 mil tax levy would equal a total of just under $290,000 collected, minus roughly $71,000 in ALS operating expenses, leaves about $219,000 reserve transfer.
Thank you much. Thank you much. Okay. So additional discussion at 4.5 mils?
I've got, that's still something in the neighborhood of a 10% tax increase
For emergency services.
For emergency services. And I still find that too high. And I sent around the question earlier today, and I'm, and unsure what the answer is. When a year or so ago, we set a target for reserves, any type of reserves, actually capital and operating. It was really focused on operating reserves, and we said 10 to 15%. And we said, but we shouldn't raise taxes in order to get above 10%, and so achieve the 15%. Here we are, flirting with the 15%, according to Sean. Are we violating our own resolution? And in raising taxes to create a reserve.
In anticipation of X, Y, and Z. But you can't compare last year to this year. We're in a completely different situation.
I'm not comparing last year to this year. I'm saying we
You just
have.
did though.
Yeah, I heard that.
So you're saying that we documented
We have an
practice.
ongoing resolution about reserves. Okay. And I want to know whether raising taxes to create a reserve when we already have reserves in the 10 to 15% range is consistent with our existing policy.
Sure, I understand.
Is it
And it may
true-
not be.
Is it true that we can decide to have this emergency services tax for '26 and then this time next year decide not to have it?
Certainly. Mhm. If or when there is a different taxing authority or this need is absorbed elsewhere.
Or that it's clear that it was excessive.
Yes,
As we could do with any.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure,
Absolutely.
because I think we have to keep really close eye on what is needed to fund all the
Sure.
unknowns. I think we're being prudent because there's so many unknowns, and
Okay.
you don't want to be caught short.
Right. So we're here at the table at 4.5, and I'm gonna call the question.
I didn't hear an answer to the question I asked, which is,
My answer is
A
that there
legal
are many
question.
unknowns, that there certainly will be bills that we don't know
Well, so that's the
about.
justification for why to change our posture from the previous resolution. David's question is a point of fact that says, that points to a previous resolution that speaks to our practices and our taxation practices. So Carl, my generalist understanding is that resolutions express the intent of a council, but they aren't a binding obligation. Could you advise on that?
I don't have a copy of the resolution on me, so I can't really speak to the specifics of the resolution, but right now you're talking about advertising a proposed budget. And that budget, you're not talking about approving the budget. That budget will change or can change between now and December. You know, if we have that vote, I don't think it implicates the resolution. We can take a look at the resolution in the meantime, and a resolution to some extent is binding, but only to the extent that you can vote to change it.
Okay.
You know, it's a simple, you don't have to advertise. If in December you decided you wanted to exceed that, or remove that provision from the resolution, you could do so.
Understood. So David, do you have it easy on hand? And you've reread that, what you're referring to recently?
I don't have it.
Okay, I don't have it easily on hand either, but I'd be interested to look back at our past action.
I wonder if it speaks to operating and capital reserve just in general.
Sure.
And this is a different pot because we're in different circumstances. And so
So-
I might be able to make a case in, I'm not a lawyer. But
Okay.
this is a different circumstance.
So let's follow Carl's guidance for tonight,
And I'm open to
Yeah.
that if that's what the legal advice we got.
that we don't need to treat this as a derailer or a blocker for tonight, but it may be appropriate for us to revisit this document, and dig this up between now and December. So let's take this as, point for consideration, but let's pull back into the 4.5%, the 4.5% millage rate. And so, to call that question, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Marty, can you get us out of that 3 to 3?
I think 4.5 is reasonable. I think given the circumstances, we're in a very different situation now than we were, even 6 or 8 months ago. So I do think that 4.5, I don't vote on this lightly. I think that it's, we're spending people's money. I understand it's a big issue, but I think this year people will understand that I've always advocated for emergency service, some sort of emergency service fund, because I knew this situation was coming down the road, and it's not going to go away. So
Understood.
I don't think this is excessive.
Okay, thanks for that, Marty. And thanks for coming off the bench on these important topics for tonight. So we just plugged in 4.5% EST, and that gets me to the end of my interior list on this spreadsheet and pulls us back out into the primary agenda. But anyone else, last call on any interior edits, clarifications is my very favorite thing in this document. Any of those kinds of questions? Sean, anything you want us to revisit?
No.
Okay. Hold your applause, good people, but we're getting close. Okay, so with that, oh, thank goodness. With that,
We have some considerations.
thank you so much, Cindy. Could you walk us through those, please? Thank you.
In order of the agenda, okay, so we did the consideration for emergency services tax check. Consideration of resolution 13.
So, actually, forgive me, Cindy. Sean, would you like that as a separate action?
No, that can be discussed with ordinance 0725.
Okay, but Cindy, in your thoughts, you're like, we just decided that.
Well, it was a motion.
Yeah, I hear ya.
And
Oh, I'm sorry, for the motion for the .45 mils.
that was,
Mhm.
it was.
Yes, that was a
we
motion during-
voted, and
So,
to me,
that was the thrilling conclusion of the budget
That
deliberation.
checks that off, I
Right?
think. We don't need
I
to do it
agree.
again.
You're comfortable with that?
Yeah, we still need to discuss the ordinance because
Right.
it includes.
Right, no, I was gonna check through those. I don't have them in front of me. Perhaps you could walk us through these to the resolution and the ordinance. Because they will have to have all the numbers plugged in at the right spots.
Yes, I'm in the process of doing
I'm
that.
trying to tap dance a
right
little
now.
for you to be able
I-
to scroll.
I appreciate you're
But
doing a
I'm
bang-up job.
I'm not so good at tap dancing, so.
And I can't walk and chew gum at the same time, apparently, but let me get this up, because I had some of these figures prepared.
I know I saw one version earlier, so I know you're working on it.
Yeah. So yes, for ordinance 07/2025, the advertisement would propose for taxes not to exceed .45 mils for emergency services purposes, for general borough purposes, a sum remaining at 3.996 mils on each dollar of assessed valuation, for a total millage rate of 4.446 mils. For trash collection and disposal, a per dwelling annual unit fee of $625. And for sanitary sewer usage, a fee not to exceed $9.75 per 1,000 gallons of water used in fourth quarter 2025 and the first 3 quarters of 2026.
Sean, do you mind, I think I just don't understand this, and millage rates get me very confused every time still. I think that you said 4.5 is the total millage, but
EST.
the previous number, 3.996, in the above sentence for general borough purposes, does that still hold?
No, yes, excuse me. So general borough purposes, 3.996 mils, that's unrestricted, can go into the general fund and be used for any purpose.
Yeah.
For the second, those 0.45 mils of revenue can only be used for emergency services purposes. Their combined total is 4.446, which is the number people are gonna see assessed against their, multiplied against their assessed property value on their tax
Okay,
bill.
that's all it took. They were similar enough numbers that confused me. Okay.
Will there be 2 lines on the tax bill?
I have no idea. I haven't seen them issue the tax bills for next year.
Right now, there's just one line.
Typically, they itemize those things on a tax bill. This is my first year in Delco.
Bill had
Sean,
said that they
that
would.
didn't add to me.
That they
I
would.
believe it would be.
It would be itemized, is what I think Bill and Bob had told me.
But how can 4.5 for EST,
Not
Plus-
4.5,
Zero.
0.45.
0.45 plus, okay, yes, plus the 3.996.
Those silly decimal points.
I knew it, I just didn't write it down. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All good? Okay.
So Cindy, have you motioned
So,
for this
yes,
action?
please, I'd like to move that we advertise the ordinance as Sean read it to us.
Is there a second?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Cindy and Kristen. Any discussion? All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Thank you. David and Jared. Okay. And then, okay.
There's a resolution 1325 for the 2026 borough fee schedule that again I'll refer to Sean to read out for us.
Well,
Yes.
let's see, quick, could you get us up and running in a conversation with a motion?
Make the motion to have the discussion.
I would like to move that we adopt resolution 13-2025.
2025? Perfect.
2026 borough fee schedule.
Thank you so much. Is there a second? Second. Thanks, Kristen. Okay.
And now we can hear what it is.
Over to you, Sean.
Yes, so this will be posted, it's going to be a boilerplate of last year's, and basically will state that, the revenues and expenditures are, resolution, I'm sorry, I grabbed the wrong one. Yeah, so our resolution is going to change our schedule of fees from what we discussed at the last meeting ever so slightly to reflect a charge for a $30 return check fee. Currently, we charge $15. It's not codified. Nancy has asked for this because it takes about 30 minutes of administrative time to remedy a bounced check. And we currently collect 15, and I think we pay about 15 for that. So this helps kind of right the ship in that sense. Aside from that, other things that were discussed at the last meeting included a zoning opinion letter fee for $100. That just saves your taxpayer from subsidizing the out-of-town realtor who's calling me asking about property X, Y, or Z. Let me see here. And a merchant parking permit. We had proposed, I think, $30 a month.
30 is existing, and we
Is
talked about
existing.
increasing that to $60. We didn't land the plane, but that was the discussion. And then the other discussion that I think Ray brought forward to us was the possibility of changing, Cindy, this was born out of something you pointed out, changing the parking enforcement charges that are $20 to $25 throughout, and that would have hit, 10 or so parking infractions. So why don't we go through each of those individually, in a little lightning round?
Sorry, one more addition, I forgot.
Please.
The increase from $95 per hour to $100 per hour for hiring an off-duty police officer, just to keep track with their employment and benefits costs.
My
Where's that?
motion was to approve the whole thing.
But there are interior decision points that are not resolved before we approve the whole thing. Yeah, I want to change some of these things.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'll second the whole thing and allow people to make individual amendments.
good. Well, so Cindy and Kristen got us on the board with a motion in a second,
Oh.
but thanks for the spirit of the action. And Sean, where's the off-duty police officer?
That'd be, I think there's a section for police fees,
Oh,
third
I see
down
it.
under police.
Okay, 100 instead of 95. Okay, so it sounded like as of last week, it sounded like folks were comfortable with the zoning opinion letter. Sean, thanks for that suggestion. We're still good with this? Yeah, I'll give you the highly official nod. And return checks from $15 to $30. Yeah, right, we're looking good at that. Merchant parking permit, currently $30. Cindy proposed last week $60. Do we want that?
I was thinking students.
Yeah, and I think she thought the fee was 50, and we were gonna increase it just by
You
$10.
both are so right. I'm sorry, my note is in the wrong line. Yes, $50 Myers Ave reserve parking. Thanks, that jogs my memory too. And so Cindy said 60 instead of 50. Just a little keeping up with the times. Are we anyone opposed to that? Okay, so Sean, could we please incorporate that change? And then the off-duty police officer, we're okay with 100 rather than 95. Great. And then all this list of $20 double parked more than 2 hours, parked in a crosswalk. They're about $10, $20 tickets, which is the lowest ticket other than an expired meter, which is a $10 ticket. Do we want those as $25 throughout?
A lot of them are safety things, yes. Yeah.
Okay, we're comfortable, we like to see $25 throughout, okay, Sean, is that sufficient instruction? Okay. So, beautiful. That's the end of Sean's edit list for us. Anyone want to go in any other direction? The other thing we had talked about, Sean asked if the 50% maximum reduction in permitting cost for participating in the Green Points program, that really could add up to a high dollar loss of revenue for commercial or institutional projects. And where we landed last week was fair point, but really we think we need a more comprehensive review of Green Points. So we were comfortable not changing that 50% reduction at this time. Are folks okay with that?
But sending it to the EAC for some,
Refreshing.
right,
Okay.
some insights and,
David, could you take that as an action step out of this meeting?
yes.
Thank you. Okay. So that's the end of the
Does that
identified
mean that we've
changes.
lost a whole year for changing those points?
Great question. Could we change this mid-year?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So no, is the answer to your question.
Glad we
Great.
agree.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
as long as that look gets done soon.
Beautiful. All right, so that brings us to the end of the list on the fee schedule. Shall we call the question to consider Cindy and Kristen's motion as amended to adopt Resolution 13-2025, the 2026 fees, charges, and fine schedule? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 6-0. Very good.
And the last one is, I think I need to do this, move to advertise the 2026 preliminary budget.
Second.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Kristen. So, Sean, do you need a moment to plug in the revenues and expenditures? Or can you take an action from us now that says, once you've tied this down and recirculated to us, assuming there are no red flags. We do want to move forward with this for advertisement at the end of this week.
I'll have to take the latter, just because some of those cells weren't working, and I didn't contemplate a $4.5 million revenue for this.
That's no problem.
What I would say is, if the motion is to apply these, discuss changes, and either report back to the chair or take some other sort of verification step in that before advertising the agenda, that could be your belt and suspenders approach.
Cindy, are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay. And is everyone else comfortable with that approach? Okay. And so the report back is to Cindy and then would you circulate the, the final document that you both looked at for full council and even for Jill's benefit to follow along where we landed?
Yes, once Cindy and I connect, and I don't imagine that will take long once I get everything put in here.
I would be delighted, Scarlett, if you wanted to be in on that little
Sure.
club to make sure.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility, certainly.
But yeah, I would circulate that to full council and then move ahead with the advertising through the
And
paper.
what's your deadline? Close business tomorrow or Wednesday?
Well, one of my announcements will be that we're closed tomorrow for Veterans Day. I should have this done by late afternoon Wednesday,
Okay.
with the goal of having this posted by the end of the week. I believe we're required to post it for 20 days, I think, 10 days, and then advertise, so.
So this date that you were shooting for, advertised Friday, November 14th in your original base text, it sounds like we're not going to hit that timetable because the deadline to the paper is what, tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, so it won't be in this week's paper, but our goal is to have this advertised in next week's paper. That sounds right?
Correct.
Okay, and that doesn't give us any squeeze to keep to our December timetable. Carl, you said 10 days?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're in the paper Friday, November 21st, and then the adoption meeting is Monday, December 8th.
Yes,
That's fine.
17 days.
Yep, very good. Okay, so we're good on that point. All right, so with Sean's recommended amendments, all in favor of advertising the proposed 2026 budget in the Swarthmore Inn on Friday, November 21st, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Thanks, David, and thanks everyone else. Okay. Cindy, anything else you've got on behalf of the Finance Committee?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you much. Okay, Marty, anything tonight?
No, just thanks Cindy and the Finance Committee and Council for, I think, a really thoughtful discussion on and outcome on the budget. It was a very difficult year. Some of the decisions were not ones that we would have made had situations hadn't been what they were. So I really do appreciate it. And I think the residents of the borough should too.
Thanks, Marty. Mayor, nope. Manager, Howell, what you got for us?
First, I'll echo Marty's comments. Thank you to all council members, but especially our Finance Committee council members and Chair Cindy. In addition to this being a tough budget year, it was also especially tough for me being the new guy here, so I really appreciate the additional time that you put forward to helping me clarify some of these things. Often on days that were inconvenient for your schedule, so many thanks to everyone and Cindy especially. As I just mentioned, the office is closed tomorrow for Veterans Day. We will reopen 8 a.m. on Wednesday. And the borough office received notification from Henkels and McCoy that there will be some work going on tomorrow throughout the borough on Swarthmore Ave, Benjamin West Highway, Widener Way, Wesley, and Elm. They will need to close Benjamin West for a period of time, and we'll have 3 flagging crews on site. So just be aware. There's some utility work going on tomorrow. If you are out and about on Veterans Day buying furniture or whatever it is people do on that federal holiday.
Thank you, Sean, and happy Veterans Day.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Solicitor, anything tonight?
Mr. Scott did not send any additional report.
Thanks for being with us tonight. All right, any motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thanks, Kristen.
Second.
All right, thanks, everybody. Take care.